Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Greetings, greetings. It is good to see you. Good to talk to you. My name is Reverend Phoenix Coffin Williams. I am the first priest of the Corellian tradition, and this is my weekly little chit chat broadcast discussion. It's been a little bit since have been able to check in, and that has been my bad. But we here today, and I'm thankful for anyone who might want to come on in and have a chat seat. You can enter in wherever you are viewing from, and you can participate in the chat, and we can have a conversation. I will do the best that I can to respond to those who do chime in the chat room. The last time that I was able to broadcast, I believe I started to speak a little bit about what happens when you take on a patron, or what happens when you declare that you are and you take rituals and steps to build relationships with divinities, and what that means for you, what that means for your life, and what you can start to expect from your experiences by bonding yourself with a patron. And this is true no matter what pantheon you decide to put yourself in, no matter what pantheon you decide to uh, express your soul through in this life. This is a general kind of principle. So whether you are indulging in Egyptian or Norse or Aztec or Greek, whether you are seeking to enter Ifa or La Regla de Ocha, um, if you are seeking to enter voodoo or voodoo, whenever you align yourself and your head spirit and your holy guardian angel, or your higher self, like when you align yourself with a pantheon, certain things starts to happen. Your life starts to become a new metaphor for those old situations. So, for example, last time I used the example of Egypt. Let's say that you are entering a magical practice, you are entering a faith, and you for yourself decide that Isis or Nephthys or Hathor or Sekhmet is going to be your patron or your patroness, or a member of your tradition's clergy gives a reading, and it's determined that one of these spirits are reaching out for you, is claiming you, and has an interest in your spiritual development in this life. Well, you start to build a relationship with that spirit. Let's say it's one of the goddesses that I just mentioned from Egypt. Well, your life starts to move in accordance with that cosmology. You don't just have a relationship with Isis or Nephthys or Hathor or Sekhmet or Bast at that time. Once you become a child of one of these divinities, you actually have a relationship with the entire pantheon. And that can be a bunch of divinities. And your relationship with these divinities will have a lot to do with your patron's relationship with these other divinities. So, for example, you are a child of Isis. You're probably going to have a great relationship with her sister Nephthys. And you will probably be able to pull off some great healing, some great reality bending, some great magic using the power not only of your patron, but also of the relationship with her twin sister Nephthys, who, mythologically speaking, have a pretty decent relationship. They work together to save Osiris. Both of them get pregnant by Osiris and give heirs for the great king. Um, that mythology will be something that you also live out in your life. Now, that's not to say that like you will have a sister who is like you in every way, and her husband will have some kind of problem with his sperm and won't be able to give her a baby, so your husband will. Like, that's not what that means. However, the archetypes that are at play in this pantheon, in their cosmology, they are going to organize themselves around your life. If you are dedicated to Isis, you are going to have to deal with a type of tragedy. You are going to have to do wonderful things to make sure that your child gets what they deserves or gets what is rightfully theirs. Now, it might not always play out word for word what it says in the myth, but if you start to look at your life instead of from your life, which is a very important skill, by the way, the ability to separate yourself from the moment and observe it. But once you start to look at your life instead of from your life, you will start to notice some parallels between some of the things that your gods and goddesses went through and some of the things that you are working your way through. And with that being the case, it is also important to recognize that the tools that they use to get through their own issues and crises are also inherent in you. And you get to use those tools, organize them, and reorganize them to get through the crises that are going on in your life. And so, with that being said, I'll take a break for a second and check in with a sponsor. And then I'll get right back in and I will start to talk about the Norse pantheon. All right. Thank you so much, Equinox Learning Hub, for being an ongoing sponsor for our work. We absolutely appreciate you. Today, I want to switch gears. Well, not really switch gears, but switch pantheons for a second. I want to let go of the Egyptian pantheon and move over into the Norse pantheon. So, for folks who are children of Thor, of Odin, of Freya, of Frigg, of Tyr, of Loki, of Sigyn, of Fenrir, for all of you northern folks, um, I'm going to read from this epic Norse myths and tales about the Norns and the Norns' web. The Norns are the three sisters of fate in the Norse pantheon. Let's see. So the version of this text is from the Anthology of Classic Tales. The foreword for this text was by Dr. Brittany Shorn, and it's by Flame Tree Publishing. And this is what it looks like if you want to get a copy. The northern goddesses of fate, who were called Norns, were in no wise subject to the other gods, who might neither question nor influence their decrees. They were three sisters, probably descendants of the giants Norvi, from whom sprang Night. As soon as the Golden Age was ended and Sin began to steal even into the heavenly homes of Asgard, the Norns made their appearance under the great ash Yggdrasil and took up their abode near the Urder fountain. According to some mythologists, their mission was to warn the gods of future evil, to bid them make good use of the present, and to teach them wholesome lessons from the past. These three sisters, whose names were Erd, Verdandi, and Skold, were personifications of the past, present, and future. Their principal occupations were to weave the web of fate, to sprinkle daily the sacred tree with water from the Urdar fountain, and to put fresh clay around the roots that it might remain fresh and evergreen. Some authorities further state that the Norns kept watch over the golden apples which hung on the branches of the tree of life, experience and knowledge allowing none but Idun to pick the fruit, which was that which the gods renewed their youth. The Norns also fed and tenderly cared for two swans which swam over the mirror-like surface of the Udar fountain. And from this pair of birds, all the swans on earth are supposed to be descended. At times, it is said, the Norns clothed themselves with swan plumage to visit the earth, or sported like mermaids along the coast and in various lakes and rivers, appearing to mortals from time to foretell the future or give them sage advice. The Norns sometimes wove webs so large that while one of the weavers stood on a high mountain in the extreme east, another waded far out into the western sea. The threads of their woof resembled cords and varied greatly in hue, according to the nature of the events about to occur, and a black thread tended from north to south was invariably considered an omen of death. As these sisters flashed the shuttle to and fro, they chanted a solemn song. They did not seem to weave according to their own wishes, but blindly, as if reluctantly executing the wishes of Orlog, the eternal law of the universe, an older and superior power who apparently had neither beginning nor end. Two of the Norns, Erd and Verdandi, were considered to be very beneficent indeed, while the third, it is said, relentlessly undid their work, and often, when nearly finished, tore it angrily to shreds, scattering the remnants to the winds of heaven. As personifications of time, the Norns were presented as sisters of different ages and characters. Erd, word or weird, appearing very old and decrepit, continually looking backward as if absorbed in contemplating past events and people. Verdandi, the second sister, young, active, and fearless, looked straight before her, while Skold, the type of the future, was generally represented as closely veiled, with head turned in the direction opposite to where Erd was gazing, and holding a book or scroll which had not yet been opened or unrolled. The Norns were visited daily by the gods, who loved to consult them, and even Odin himself frequently rode down to the Urdar fountain to bespeak their aid, for they generally answered his questions, maintaining silence only about his own fate and that of his fellow gods. And from that kind of entry into this epic book that has tons and tons of tales of the northern people, we find out a bunch about the Fates, the Norns, the Weirds, and we find out about their interaction with other gods. We understand what does not sway them. We understand what they have control over, and we understand a little bit about where they get their power from or where they get their authority from. So they are the ones who directly put the ancient law into existence in the form of the web, so to speak. And so people who are diviners might build relationships with the Norn, or they might utilize their relationship with Odin to petition the Norns to get information about the future, knowing that the information that they get is not likely going to be things that can be changed very easily. Because again, like the Norns, they took no sacrifice in exchange for being swayed. They were not subject to any of the gods. No one had any power before them. So The offerings, the sacrifices, the petitions, the begging, and the pleading, not likely going to be something that works with the Norns. However, you could get some insight about how to best weather the storms that are about you, or some information or insight about how best to move or behave to get the things that you're really hoping for. But aside from spirit work with the Norns, or with the spirits that work with the Norns, there's also the understanding that when you enter the Norse pantheon, or when you accept that you are claimed by a Norse divinity, the rule of the Norns does govern your life. The rule of Orlog does govern your life. And the things that you go through, whether they be high or low, are ordained by the web that the fates have spun. Same thing goes if you enter the Greek pantheon. And if Aphrodite or Hera or Artemis or Hestia, you claim that they are your mothers, or you claim that they are your sisters or your patrons, you've got to understand that there are the fates who govern the lives of that cosmology, who are not subject to the punishments or the whims or the pleas of gods or mortals. And so those are the ones who are responsible for knowing what's going to come, whether or not it can be changed, or whether or not your karmic lesson is set in their web or set in the tapestry that they have weaved. When it comes to the fates, and I'm speaking now from an interfaith perspective, when it comes to the fates, one of their biggest lessons is the power of acceptance. They have the authority to put us through whatever it is the law demands, the great universal law demands, whether it's karma, threefold return, whatever it is, whatever's coming our way. They are the ones, the fates are the ones with the authority to put it right into the web, right into the tapestry, right into the highs and lows of our very real lives. And having these beings who are not receptive to our begging, to our pleading, to our sacrifices, to our offerings, who are not moved or swayed by our tears or our hard work, or any of the things that we go through when we are going through like the stages of grief or denial and all of that, like they are not beholden to that. So that means really we only have to accept. Resisting it, of course, remains an option, but like that leads to suffering. But they really teach us how to accept the natural order of things. They teach us how to accept that stuff is not going to change because we're not changing it. And if things are going to change, we have to be the ones to do it. And if it's not going to change, it's not going to change. So effort need not be used in those areas. The fates, the Norns, the sisters, they are the ones who help us understand the right way to use our energy, or the right way to use our magic, or the right way to use our time. And they do that by presenting us with things that are inescapable and unavoidable. Hello, hello to Magical Mermaid in the chat. Hello, hello to Reverend Ed Hubbard in the chat. Hope y'all are both doing well, and thanks for joining me. Let's see. So again, this is the epic. I don't know if you can see it up here, but it does say epic, and it says Tales down here. So it's a part of a series. This is the Norse Myth and Tales. And so for those of you who are in training for the priesthood, I encourage you to learn as much as you can about the various gods that exist. not just the ones in your pantheon. If you are training to be a first degree, then knowing the stories about your patrons is going to be great. Knowing those stories in and out is going to be great, and it's going to serve you wonderfully. If you are in training to be a second degree and you are learning the tales of your gods, your heroes, your monsters, and your demons in and out, that is going to serve you tremendously. If you are training to become a member of the high clergyhood, a third degree in our tradition, then I would say learning the heroes, the monsters, the demons, the ancestors, the gods, the saints of various pantheons. That's going to be the thing that serves you well. Um, Yopin Dan, thanks for stopping in. I don't know what you're saying to me in this chat, but thanks for stopping in. But yeah, so for those of you who are interested in pursuing a path of clergy, I definitely recommend learning the mythologies, the creation stories of your pantheon in and out. Because once you declare and you make these rituals, and you are walking with these specific deities and divinities, you are walking in the footprints of the cosmology that was created by them. Let us see. Another myth that we could see. Some of these are very long. All right. The discovery of flax. That's a short myth because we're about to get out of here real soon. The discovery of flax from the Norse epics. There once was a peasant who daily left his wife and children in the valley to take his sheep up the mountain to pasture. And as he watched his flock grazing on the mountainside, he often had opportunity to use his crossbow and bring down a chamois whose flesh would furnish his larder with food for many a day. While pursuing a fine animal one day, he saw it disappear behind a boulder, and when he came to the spot, he was amazed to see a doorway in the neighboring glacier. For in the excitement of the pursuit, he had climbed higher and higher until he was now on top of the mountain, where glittered the everlasting snow. The shepherd boldly passed through the open door and soon found himself in a wonderfully jeweled cave hung with stalactites, in the center of which stood a beautiful woman clad in silvery robes and attended by a host of lovely maidens crowned with alpine roses. In his surprise, the shepherd sank to his knees and, as in a dream, heard the queenly central figure bid him choose anything he saw to carry away with him. Although dazzled by the glow of the precious stones around him, the shepherd's eyes constantly reverted to a little nosegay of blue flowers which the gracious apparition held in her hand, and now timidly proffered a request that it might become his. Smiling with pleasure, Hulda, for it was she, gave it to him. Hulda, as in the great Dame Hulda, telling him he had chosen wisely and would live as long as the flowers did not droop and fade. Then, giving the shepherd a measure of seed which she told him to sow in his field, the goddess bade him be gone. And as the thunder pealed and the earth shook, the poor man found himself out upon the mountainside once more, and slowly wended his way home to his wife, to whom he told his adventure and showed the lovely blue flowers and the measure of seed. The woman reproached her husband bitterly for not having brought some of the precious stones which he so glowingly described, instead of the blossoms and seed. Nevertheless, the man proceeded to sow the latter, and he found to his surprise that the measure supplied seed enough for several acres. Soon the little green shoots began to appear, and one moonlit night, while the peasant was gazing upon them and was his want, for he felt a curious attraction to the field which he had sown, and often lingered there wondering what kind of grain would be produced He saw a misty form hover above the field, with hands outstretched as if in blessing. At last the field blossomed, and countless little blue flowers opened their calyxes to the golden sun. When the flowers had withered and the seed was ripe, Hulda came once more to teach the peasant and his wife how to harvest the flax, for such it was, and from it to spin, weave, and bleach linen. As the people of the neighborhood willingly purchased both linen and flaxseed, the peasant and his wife soon grew very rich indeed. And while he plowed, sowed, and harvested, she spun, wove, and bleached the linen. The man lived to a good old age and saw his grandchildren and great grandchildren grow around him. All this time, his carefully treasured bouquet had remained fresh as when he first brought it home. But one day he saw that during the night the flowers had drooped and were dying. Knowing what this portended, and that he too must die, the peasant climbed the mountain once more to the glacier and found again the doorway for which he had often vainly searched. He entered the icy portal and was never seen or heard of again, for according to the legend, the goddess took him under her care and bade him live in her cave where his every wish was granted. That is the story of the discovery of flax. And from that story, we learn a great deal about the promises of people who are devoted to the Great Dame Hulda, the importance of living a good life, and the importance of what happens to you at the end of your life when you do live a good life. Someone who was a devotee of Hulda or who was a child of the North tradition might include in all of their prayers that Hulda visits them close to the hour of their death so that they are comforted. Um, they might um, leave her offerings of flax or things that were made from flaxseed because flax was given as a gift. Maybe they might make smoothies and put flax seeds in them, all of that. But in here, in this example of the discovery of flax and mentioning the name of the goddess Hulda, is a great example of why it's important to know your mythologies inside and out when you are on a magical path, and particularly when you are training to enter into the closed court. The mythologies give phenomenal clues and hints, as well as out and outright magic and devotions that you can do to impact your life. Hopefully, you did find today's little discussion helpful. Thanks to everyone who stopped in on the chat. Keep a lookout for me to be coming back soon. I do know that at the ending of this month, because we are right here at the halfway point, I do know at the ending of this month, the Temple of Holistic Knowledge is going to be a way for our regional lustration of the living, which is something that we do host every year. It is an open celebration, so people who are local to the Buffalo area, if y'all want to come out and camp out with us, you are more than welcome to. We get together, do a lot of praying, a lot of devotions, a lot of magic, and then we carry out our tradition's most sacred ritual, which is a lustration ritual. Um, and we seek the sacred oracle to be delivered from the ancestors. So if anyone is local to Buffalo, if y'all friends with me on Facebook or in any of the other social medias that I'm a part of, go ahead and take a look out for that flyer. Get yourself registered. Come on and hang out with us for 3 days of magic. We will be going to Lilydale on the center day, because a lot of people do enjoy that place. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for joining. I love you all lots. And until next time, bless.